Sewing tools assignment. So we're going to learn about our sewing tools. This is a tape measure. They're long plastic or fiberglass strip with marks for measuring. You measure fabric, you can measure patterns, or you can measure body measurements. So it's a flexible tape measure. Seam gauge. Seam gauges are small metal rulers used to measure small areas. So we use this when you're measuring seams, buttons, placement, eye placement, zipper placement, anything on a garment. Hem gauge, a multi-purpose measuring tool. It has curved hem-shaped side that is used to mark standard hem depths. Straight side is used like a ruler. So this is going to be used like a seam gauge, but it's called a hem gauge. Yardstick, a wooden measuring stick. It's usually a yard or a meter long. Shears versus scissors. Scissors are shorter blades with handles and have matching holes that are centered. So these right here are your scissors. Shears, which are up here, have different sizes, holes, and blades are to one side used for cutting fabric. These scissors are not used to cut paper. These are what you use to cut paper. Now in my classroom, we had scissors that said dead on it. And the dead scissors were the scissors that were not sharp enough to cut fabric, so we made them paper scissors. If you take your fabric scissors and you use them to cut paper, it dulls them and then they will not be able to cut fabric anymore. Pinking shears are, I don't know if you can see it very well, but they're the V-shaped scissors that give you a design like this right here. And they're used to finish raw edges. Pinking shears cut a special edge, and to finish raw edges means it just makes it a little nicer and it won't fray as much. Rotary cutter, used to cut fabric. It looks like a pizza cutter and it's for fabric. I have one of those. They're very sharp, very sharp. So what you do is you put it on a cutting board. It has to be on a cutting board because it will cut whatever is under it. And you just roll it around like a pizza cutter and it can give you a very straight edge. Rotary ruler and mat. So the ruler is used with a rotary cutter to cut straight. The mat is a special mat that protects the table. So it's kind of like a cutting board in the kitchen. Danger. If you cannot use the rotary cutter safely, you will not be able to use it anymore. We don't have one in here, so we're not going to, if you have one at home, that's fine, but it says you can be seriously hurt by the blade of a rotary cutter. The blade is a razor blade and it's very sharp. So if you have one at home and your parents allow you to use it, that's fine, but be careful not to hurt yourself. Embroidery scissors are small, very small, sharp scissors for trimming threads and cutting small places. So I have a pair of these and I use them just to cut my threads, to clean my fabric up. If you have to cut out some V's like around your sleeves for seam allowance, then you could use those for the small spaces. The next one is buttonhole scissors. Special scissors that help you cut the slip for a buttonhole. And these are thread clips used to clip the threads as you sew. So you can use you could use embroidery scissors or you can use your thread clips. Scissor rules: cut only fabric. Never cut pins. Do not drop them. Get sharpened when dull. And dull scissors will not cut fabric no matter how much you try. No matter how much you try, it will not cut the fabric. And you can take your scissors, your fabric scissors to like Joann Fabrics and they can send them out and get them sharpened for you for a cost. Special pens or pencils that are used to mark fabric when sewing are called marking pencils and pens. So they have fabric markers and then they have fabric pencils. Tracing wheel and paper. What this is, it's a coated paper that comes in assorted colors, used to transfer markings on the fabric. So what you do is you put your pattern, sorry guys, you put your fabric, you put your pattern over your fabric, and in between between the pattern and the fabric, you lay this paper. It's like coated paper, and then you use your wheel and you mark everything on your pattern so that you can see it on your fabric. Tailor's chalk is used to transfer markings onto the fabric. You remove them by brushing before pressing over them. So that's just a chalk that you can mark things on your fabric. Like if you had a buttonhole, you could mark where the placement is on that. And then before you iron, you have to make sure it's gone or it'll stay on there. Seam ripper. This, I say, is your best friend. It's a small sharp tool used to remove stitches. So if you let's go back to that. If you make a mistake, you get that out and you just rip the seam out, whether it's hand sewing or machine sewing, and you start all over. And it can take a while to rip it out because especially if it's machine, it's really tight. A loop turner is a long slim wire with a latch hook at one end used to turn tubing or cording to the right side. So you would stick it into the small hole like right here. You'd stick it in and then you would pull it all out. Press turner, point turner and presser is a plastic or wooden point turner used to push out points such as collars and cuffs. So you get that nice pointy edge after you've sewn a collar or a cuff. That nice sharp edge. A bodkin, used for inserting elastic or drawstrings into casings. So I've always used like a giant safety pin. You just click it on, put it on, like if you lose your drawstring in your sweatpants, you put it on, you fasten it onto the string, and you just pull it through the hole. But they have these little gadgets that you can do it with also. And it's called a bodkin. Okay, that's the end, guys. So we will have a quiz over this equipment. So make sure that you know what it is, okay? Like, what is this? This is a pin cushion. So there's some things that aren't on there that might be on your quiz. So if you don't, you have a favorite device called Google on your Chromebook, and you can look anything up.